Hello and welcome, my dear friend. There's a reason this message reached you right now. Something inside you has been whispering, "I don't fit here anymore." You've tried to ignore it, blaming exhaustion, boredom, or even loneliness. But what you're really feeling is the gravity starting to loosen. You're preparing to leave the version of Earth you once knew. And I don't mean rockets or rapture. I mean the Earth state, the weight of fear, of proving, of constant survival. You've been living with your feet on the ground, but your soul halfway in the clouds. And lately that split has become impossible to ignore. Everything that used to matter feels like static now. The small talk, the noise, the constant reaching for approval. Even the places that once felt like home have begun to echo differently. That's what leaving Earth feels like. Not distance, but difference. You're starting to see the same world through new light, and the light refuses to lie to you anymore. Maybe you've noticed how time bends lately, how a single week feels like a year of lessons, how your sleep is deeper, but your dreams are louder. You wake up remembering pieces of something ancient, as if you're recollecting not memories, but instructions. That's because you are. You're remembering how to operate from soul-level command. Leaving Earth is when the practical and the divine start shaking hands. When you pay your bills, cook your meals, go to work, and yet you feel an invisible rhythm guiding every step. You catch yourself saying things you didn't plan, doing things you didn't rehearse, and somehow they open doors logic could never find. That's not coincidence, that's altitude. You're rising into a higher form of reality, one where alignment moves faster than effort, and peace begins to feel more productive than hustle ever did. And yes, parts of you will resist it, because the mind clings to gravity. It loves what's known. It will tell you you're lazy, lost, unrealistic. But the truth is, you've simply stopped translating your spirit into survival mode. You're learning to breathe in thin air, where faith is the oxygen and intuition is the compass. Leaving Earth looks like sitting in traffic yet feeling unshaken. It looks like facing conflict and choosing stillness over reaction. It's the quiet moment when you realize you don't need to defend yourself anymore, because the highest court already ruled in your favor. This is the beginning of that chapter, the one you've sensed since childhood but couldn't name. The one that makes every strange detour suddenly make sense. So if everything feels unfamiliar right now, don't panic. You're not losing touch. You're gaining altitude. And what waits beyond isn't some distant heaven. It's the reality you've been secretly building every time you chose truth over comfort, love over control, and faith over fear. Divine altitude isn't something you schedule. It happens quietly, on an ordinary morning that looks like all the others. You're brushing your teeth or tying your shoes, and you notice that the noise inside your head has softened. The usual battle between worry and what if has lost its energy. It's not far from now, maybe it's already happening, that you'll catch yourself realizing fear has been replaced with calm courage. Not loud bravery, not speeches and declarations, just a still confidence that feels like it has always lived in you. You walk outside, and for some reason, the air feels different. Your dreams don't look out of reach anymore. Colors look less like background and more like language. Even the smallest things, dust floating through sunlight, a dog barking down the street, a child's laugh, seem to have meaning stitched into them. You're still on the same planet, but your awareness has expanded until everything feels slightly holy. This is what altitude really looks like. You start seeing the sacred inside the simple. You notice the rhythm of your breath while waiting in line. You feel gratitude rise during moments that used to annoy you. Traffic, delays, unanswered texts. None of it hooks you the way it used to. It's not apathy, it's perspective. You finally understand that not everything deserves a reaction. And then there are subtler changes. You feel an urge to clean your space, to lighten it, to give away clothes that carry old versions of you, to delete contacts that drain instead of connect, to stop performing small talk that leaves you feeling smaller. You don't announce these choices. They happen naturally, as if some inner editor is trimming the unnecessary. You start craving truth in texture, honest laughter, conversations that go somewhere deeper than the weather. You might even find yourself sitting in silence more often, not because you're lost for words, but because quiet finally feels like home. Some mornings, you'll wake with an inexplicable peace, and you'll sense God in the smallest gestures, in the warmth of your coffee cup, in the way light sneaks through the curtain, in the heartbeat you forget to thank for its loyalty. That's how you know your perception is changing. You start recognizing divinity without needing the dramatic. You become more comfortable in your own skin, not because the world suddenly approves of you, but because you no longer need its permission. There's a sense of rightness where there used to be doubt. The mirror stops feeling like a test. You look, and instead of judging, you simply nod. Not out of pride, but out of recognition. And when conflict appears, as it always does, you respond differently. Where you once defended yourself in a rush of panic, you now pause, breathe, and choose words that match your peace. You realize the argument was never against people. It was against your own insecurity. And now that insecurity is losing its grip, elevation changes how you measure success. You stop chasing the finish line and start noticing the rhythm of progress. You no longer compare your timeline to anyone else's. It's like there's a deep trust building inside you, the kind that doesn't need evidence. You sense that your steps are seen even when no one is watching. At times it might feel lonely, not because you lack people, but because so few speak this new language. It's the language of peace after chaos, of quiet assurance after years of over-explaining. You learn to translate it through presence. You show people how heaven sounds by the way you treat them. And that's another sign. Your compassion becomes more precise. You don't try to fix everyone anymore. You listen without carrying. You pray without controlling. You care, but you stay anchored. There's strength now where sympathy used to drain you. Even your relationship with time changes. You stop rushing to arrive because you realize you're already in motion with something eternal. You find meaning in pauses, the space between tasks, the walk to your car, the few seconds before a call connects. That's where you feel God most clearly, in the intervals where nothing important seems to happen. Sometimes your mind will try to return to gravity. It will whisper, "Don't get too peaceful. Something's bound to go wrong." But you'll notice how weak that voice sounds now. You'll smile, maybe even laugh, because you finally know peace isn't the absence of storms. It's the realization that storms pass through you, not to you. You start remembering pieces of yourself that got buried. Old dreams surface, not as fantasies, but as instructions. Things you used to think were random talents suddenly make sense again. The sketchbook, the guitar, the urge to write, the curiosity about stars, these weren't hobbies, they were coordinates. They lead you back to who you've always been beneath survival mode. There's no grand announcement when this shift completes. One evening, you'll be washing dishes, and it'll hit you that the anxiety that used to hum in the background is gone. You'll realize days have passed without the old heaviness visiting. You'll feel steady for no reason, and that steadiness will feel sacred. That's what it means to leave Earth, not floating away, but finally landing in truth. The ground beneath you doesn't change, your relationship to it does. You start walking lighter because you know the weight isn't yours anymore, and slowly, without trying, you begin to notice beauty where you once saw burden. People's faces tell stories